Welcome back to Qtronics, where I have all the gear and no idea. Today we're going to be looking at Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons. Now, the Joy-Cons throughout their lifetime have been troubled with stick drift, and obviously at one point you could send them back to Nintendo. I'm not sure if that's still going on, but you can send them away and it takes a few weeks to get them back. You know, it's alright, but obviously if you've not caught up there's things now called Hall effect sticks, and basically they use magnets rather than resistance, so they shouldn't fail over time. Now, they started off being about £20 for a set, but here and now, China have done what China always do, and Hall effect sticks are now cheap as chips.
Well, that is where our future lies, Rodney. This time next year, we'll be millionaires.
This whole pack here costs £5 or $5 if you don't include taxes. And yes, in this pack is everything you need to install the Hall effect sticks. Obviously, you know, it's easy for me to do because I've got the gear. But now I'm going to do this whole install with just this bag here. So only the tools that came in this bag, that's all I'm going to do. So you can almost say this is the idiot's guide to fixing stick drift on a Joy-Con. So let's get into it. As I said, we'll only use the tools available here. Now, what the guides don't tell you is one of these Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons, if you haven't looked at them properly, is a lot harder to do than the other. And it's this one on the right here because of the IR sensor. The board's all over the shop with it. So we'll do that one second. First, let's get this left one sorted. So obviously, you can see that the stick is absolutely crapped out on here. I will bring in the switch so you can see that both of these are suffering with stick drift. Right then, let's get into the switch. So calibrate control sticks. So if we look at the left one first. Oh, that's actually not looking so bad now. When I tested it earlier on, I mean, you can see it's taking... Oh, there we go. Look at that, how long that took to come back. Right, let's get off that one and let's test the right one. There we go. Can you see that? Ooh, wiggle, and it's back. So, right, let's get them apart and let's get this stick drift fixed. So, as I said, we'll start with the left one first. So, they're nice and easy to take apart. And again, this kit, I will leave a link in the description. I'm not affiliated or anything, so I just happened to see this kit and I thought, you know what? Like I said, I have the gear normally, but everything's in here. So we've got the 2 screws, some tweezers, this Billy Bob thingamabob, and obviously our Hall effect sticks. And I even come with some little covers for you. There we go. 2 lovely Hall effect sticks. Right then, let's get this open. They even came with replacement screws. So you want to take your tri-wing screwdriver first, and then there's 4 screws. So let's get into those. Right then. Now, the screws are out. I would normally, if you can, get your nail into this little thing here, the seam, and just keep pushing your nail through. But again, they have given you the tool to do this. So if you're struggling to get your nail in, just get the tool in. This will be a little bit stiff. There you go. Once you're in one point, just spread all along, and there you go. It'll naturally just pop open. Nice and simple. Now, once we're in, the first thing we want to do before we touch anything is we need to get that battery disconnected. So this tool again, if you get under it, sorry, the battery's here. If you get under it and just lift up, it should naturally just want to pop out. There we go. Now the battery's out. That's it. We're safe. That's the key point here. Now we're good. Normally I would use these, which are ceramic tweezers. But like I said, they're going to stick to the kit and go from there. So now that's open. There's technically you can strip these down to the bare bones if you really want, but I don't want to do that. I think we need to do this the quickest possible way. So first of all, we need to get the battery out. So get your spludger, stick it under there. We don't want to put any pressure on these batteries if we can help it, because obviously we don't want to bulge the battery and explode or set on fire. Right, let's put that to one side. Now, we've got the tri-wing screwdriver can go away now. We've got some screws here, so my camera focuses. So first of all, we need to remove this screw, and this screw here. Now this blue thing will just pop off. Now be careful when you take this off, because this ribbon here is still attached. There we go, look, you can see it's just attached here. So if we just flick that up, you can use your fingernail or again, get the spludger in there. Be very careful, you don't need a lot of pressure at all. And this is where we can use the tweezers that actually come with the kit. Now you want to be really careful as we don't want to rip the cable. But if you just give it a little bit of a nudge. There we go, that's how we put this to one side now. And now with this one, nice and easy, all we need to do now is remove this screw and undo this, and the Joy-Con's out. So firstly, we will take this ribbon out. So if we pop that ribbon up, again, fingernail, tweezers, nice and careful though, and then ease it out. There we go. And then let's undo these two screws here. So one's here, and one is just under here. So be very careful with this ribbon, you don't want to break it. So just hold it up. And then the last thing to do, if you just want to disconnect here, again, fingernail or the spludger, and then just pull out. Again, it doesn't matter, this one now, it doesn't matter if you rip or damage, because obviously you're going to be replacing it. And once that's out, we can literally just push up on the bottom, and now your Joy-Con's out. That's it, it's done. Obviously this one came out a lot easier because it doesn't have the cover on it. So then we get the new one, and now this is what the guide doesn't tell you. The guide will tell you to just push it straight in and then connect it. I would suggest you connect the ribbon before you push it back in. And these Hall effect ribbons are a little bit tougher to get in. So you want to be nice and careful. I have actually ripped one of these ribbons before. So you want to just put it in first and then, oh, this one's gone in lovely. Just give it a rock back and forward. Right on the edge of the cable is this darker plastic. That is harder, so it's not ribbon, it's actual plastic. So you can use that for a bit of leverage, push in, and then once we're in, lock in place. And then if you give it a bit of a tug, it shouldn't come out. And then we literally push the Joy-Con through, avoiding getting this wire trapped here. There we go. Yeah, as I said, avoid getting that wire trapped. There we go. And then seat it back where it was and screw those two screws in, and that's the Joy-Con installed in a left-hand side. Nice and simple. Nothing really to it. I will say these tools aren't the best, but again, for how much you pay for them, they do the job. And if you only ever need to change one set of Joy-Cons, you don't want to buy loads of little screwdriver sets and stuff. It's nice and simple. Now, when you're tightening these down, you don't need to really over tighten them. Just tighten them till they're snug, and that's enough. Right then, let's reconnect these ribbons. So this one here, you'll see they'll just naturally, there's only two ribbons empty, this one and this one. And this one can only go into one, so just slide them in. Again, be very careful not to scratch the motherboard though or anything. And then, boom, locked in place. And we bring back this one. Now, this one locks in face up. So you want to make sure the ribbon, the metal is facing upwards. This one can be a little bit more difficult because obviously there's something hanging on the back of it. But just take your time, nice and patient, and it'll just slide in. There we go. Once it's lined up, it'll just naturally slide in, and we can lock it in place. The job's a good one. And then it's literally just put it back together. So fold that over. One thing I will say, be very careful about knocking this right trigger button here because there's a little spring right there. And if you lose that, your R trigger will stop working. It's really easy to knock them out. So just be very careful. And then you can fold this back over. Make sure you're not trapping any wires. Especially not. The wire goes behind here, look, as you can see. Don't get it trapped over here because that's where we screw the shell back in. There we go. And then we can screw our 3 screws back in. I will admit, doing this with not the proper tool, with not really good tools, does take a bit longer. Just because this screwdriver is not as nice as my screwdriver. But it does the job. And to be honest, most people have tiny Phillips screwdrivers. It's only that tri-wing they might not. So there you go. And then the last one down here. There we go. And then we can bring back our battery. And you should see there should be sticky on one side. You can see a little bit of sticky there. So stick it back down how it was on. It'll only go in one way because there's a little hole here for the wire to pop through. So you won't be able to get it wrong. And then if we fold this back underneath, this is probably the most tricky part, because obviously, like I said, I'd normally use ceramic tweezers for this, whereas I'm going to have to use my fingers. So if you get it lined up enough, you can probably just use the spludger then, just to push it down. There we go, we're pushing in, and then you can do a quick check, press any of the buttons, and you'll see the ribbon light up. Boom, there we go, we're done. Right, fold these back in themselves, like that. Close the case. You'll hear it clip in, sort of. And then we can screw those 4 black tri-wing screws back in. And then we're done. Now, I will tell you this, these black screws are not magnetic normally. So unless you've got a magnetizing screwdriver that picks them up, they're not normally magnetic. Or they're too big for magnetism. I'm not sure what happens, because sometimes they are magnetic and sometimes they're not. That's right, let me just screw these back in. Now, on to the right, the bane of my existence almost. I've done quite a few shell swaps for Joy-Cons, and the right one is just the worst. I can't remember now if actually changing the Joy-Con is easier on it, but I've definitely swapped shells, and shells are horrible for it. So let's dig in. Again, same opening procedure, 4 screws. Now, with this one, we don't need to actually remove the battery from the shell. We do need to disconnect it though. So, same as last time, get your spludger, get underneath the battery wires and just push up. Now on this one there is actually an aerial wire, so you can just pop that first if you want, just to give yourself a bit more clearance. Just make sure you put it back on at the end, and then you can get under that there and just push up. He says. There we go. And the battery's disconnected. Obviously be careful of your rumble wires. Right, now we don't need to disconnect this, but this one is overall harder, and I'll explain as we go through. So with this one, our 3 screws, sorry, for disconnecting the battery from the motherboard is one here, and then there's one here and one here, and that sits underneath the ZR trigger. Now this is connected to the board, and on the last one you saw me turn it over and it was quite, you had quite a lot of range. With this one you don't, it's very close. So when I open it, I'll show you what I mean. So 3 screws. So now we should be able to lift this up. Be very careful how fast you lift this. So you want to lift up and then turn to the right and fold over, because as you can see, it's there, and look how small that ribbon is. So with this, if you can, the guide will tell you to disconnect it. I would say leave it where it is. Be careful of that top bumper again so you don't knock it out, because again there's a spring there. I would leave that where it is and go straight into disconnecting the Joy-Con, the analog stick, sorry. So yep, let's undo that. 2 screws again. 1, 2. So in one way, it's technically easier to change the Joy-Con as long as you're very careful with this connection here and you don't break it. Right, and then disconnect the Joy-Con here. I'll show you using the spludger this time. Just get underneath it and a little flick, and then you should be able to just, this one will be a bit harder to come out because obviously it's got the rubber on it, and then just give it a little bit of a tug, and there we go, that one's away. And then in comes our new Hall effect stick, and again I would try and connect it before getting the Joy-Con into the hole. So nice little bit of a wiggle. You'll feel it slide in, and then that's it, it should be connected. Give it a little tug, make sure it's not coming out, and then seat this. push it through, and then screw it back down. Job's a good one. So I take it back. Actually, if you're very careful with the right one, the right Joy-Con is actually the right Joy-Con analog stick is actually easier to replace. Right then, we want to come to the right again, fold over, and then push it back into place. There we go, and then just reinstall those 3 screws. And just make sure they're tight again. Nice and snug, but not to the point where you really put a lot of effort into your hand. It should just be, you'll feel the resistance and that should be enough. Right then, what I suggest now is, before you plug that battery back in, use your tweezers and reconnect the Joy-Con aerial. Might need to get your finger in there or the spludger, and it just clips on, it does. Once you've lined it up, it'll just clip on nicely. Hack for this, if you want it, is to pull it up and unseat it. Get the wire mounted first and then reseat it afterwards. There we go. And then just pop it back down. And just make sure push that wire back in, just so it's nice and seated, it's not flopping around. There we go. And then finally, if we reconnect the battery, which might be a little bit more difficult in this one, this is where I would say if you need to, be very careful. Use your tweezers and just touch the battery plastic. Don't touch anything else. Once you're lined up, give it a push. And there we go. Battery's back in. And then finally just test, make sure it's working. Ooh. What happened there then? Something a bit loose. This might be one of the other ribbons in this Joy-Con's actually playing up. So if that happens to you, it just means the wire connecting to your board has potentially broken. Now, it's only the lights normally that don't work, so I'll just prove that. I won't fully seat it back together. Basically, these 2 buttons might not work. But for that, you'll need to replace the ribbon. So let me know in the comments if you want to see me do that. Obviously, I'm just trying to show you to fix the stick drift at the moment. And then let's put them all back together. And like I said, if you want to see a video of where I fix those ribbons, let me know. Right then, let's get the switch out and let's have a look. 1, 2. Right, when you've first put Hall effect sticks in, you might have to calibrate them. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. So let's go to calibrate and let's have a look. This one looks fine, but you can see now, no stick drift on there. Dead center every time. And let's look at the right stick. Dead center every time. So there you go then, guys. That is how easy it is to fix stick drift on your Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons. It's very simple, and like I said, for £5 you've got Hall effect sticks now, so they should never ever drift again. Actually, they should be done, absolutely finished. As I said, sometimes you do get broken Joy-Cons where the ribbon goes on the light board, so hit me up in the comments and let me know if you want me to do that fix. It's really quick and you're halfway there at the time, but obviously it's another part, so hence why I didn't cover it in this video. I just wanted to show you what happens if you want to change the analog sticks. And sometimes that board will break. Most times it doesn't. It's the second time ever that's happened to me. So, and these were bought as broken sets, so they were meant to be completely broken. So I fully expect that to happen. So yeah, let me know in the comments, guys. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, as it really helps the channel to grow. And I'll catch you next time. See ya.